Fine Monday morning. We're back in Lighthouse Ghosts and Legends by Nina Kostopoulos, and the story is called A Spirited Place, White River Light, Whitehall, Michigan. This is a picture of what the actual lighthouse looked like and the lightkeeper's house. And if I would have thought of it, because I was looking up the lightkeeper and his wife, I would have printed out the color picture of this lighthouse. It's actually a bright yellow. After I'm done reading, I will try and attempt a sketch of the two spirits. A spirited place. In the 1800s, industrialization started to boom in the Midwest. Charles Mears built the first sawmill on White Lake in 1838. In 1849, the Reverend William Ferry and his son Thomas built a water-powered sawmill at the mouth of the White River, where White Lake meets Lake Michigan. Their farm lumber went partially toward new construction in nearby Whitehall, but for the most part, it was shipped to larger cities like Chicago and Milwaukee. With an increasing number of ships transporting lumber, White River became congested, especially after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, when lumber was in absolute demand. As ships began to wreck more frequently, it became clear to the Michigan legislature that a new lighthouse was needed at the entrance to White Lake. At the same time, those making their profits in the lumber industry were seeking money for the expansion of the shipping canal. Business was booming, and the lumber barons hoped to build an additional channel between White Lake and Lake Michigan. In 1866, Congress agreed to a sum of $67,000 for the shipping channel and $10,000 for a new lighthouse at the entrance of the harbor. However, there was immediate disagreement as to the most appropriate position for the lighthouse. Construction was indefinitely halted until the channel could be built and authorities could reassess the area. It was important to position the tower where it could be the most beneficial. Work on the channel progressed slowly. In the meantime, ship captains needed a navigational aid. One shipping captain from England, William Robinson, took it upon himself to ensure the safety of his fellow sailors. He often built fires along the beach of White River to guide ships along the river. In 1869, another $45,000 was appropriated for completion of the channel. 2 years later, in 1871, it was finished. By that time, the original budget for the lighthouse had been long spent. Little more than $1,000 remained to construct a small wooden light at the end of a pier. This pierhead light guarded the new channel rather than the harbor, contrary to what ship captains had once hoped. The faithful Captain William Robinson became the first keeper of the pier light in 1872. When the Lighthouse Board requested $4,000 for a keeper's dwelling, they were rebuffed. The next year, the board proposed a larger shore light. This time, the request was heard. In 1874, they were granted $15,000 for a new lighthouse and keeper's dwelling. Captain Robinson and 5 other men assisted in the construction of the new lighthouse. Built with yellow Michigan brick and limestone blocks, the tower included a long cast iron staircase that ran from the cellar to the top of the tower. Robinson saw the project from start to finish and again took over his duties as keeper upon its completion. After years of waiting, when the devoted keeper finally moved into the lighthouse with his wife Sarah, he vowed never to leave it. The happy couple built a home in the tower, as Robinson had always envisioned, and together they raised 11 children. Holy moly. Day in and day out, the keeper tended his lighthouse with wisdom and enthusiasm. He and his wife saw to the maintenance of the tower and home raised their children, and made it their personal mission in life to protect ships along the shores of White River. Life was good. They were very much in love with one another and perfectly fulfilled by their duties. They imagined a long, happy life together in the lighthouse, but it was not to be. Sarah died suddenly at the age of 58. Robinson was unprepared for such a loss and inconsolable. To keep his spirits up, he concentrated all of his energies on the care of the lighthouse. As the keeper grew older and nearer the age of retirement, his grandson and his assistant, Captain William Bush, took over as keeper. The captain, however, was reluctant to lose his grip on the White River Light. Even though government regulation allowed only one lighthouse keeper and his family to reside in the lighthouse at a time, Robinson refused to leave. Out of respect, Bush deferred to his grandfather's seniority and allowed the captain to remain in the house and tend to the beacon as he had always done. Though the tower technically belonged to his grandson, Robinson carried out most of the work until well into his 80s. After many years of this arrangement, it was a well-known fact, even to the lighthouse board, that Robinson was still residing and working in the lighthouse. In 1915, the board insisted that the keeper retire from his duties and the house. At 87, Robinson was no longer deemed capable of tending the light. He walked with a cane and couldn't get around as well as he once did, which made him a liability. They wanted Bush, a much younger, more capable man, permanently on duty. Robinson was unmoved. To the dismay of the organization, he refused to abandon the light. At this point, the board realized that significant measures would have to be taken. They never got the chance. Determined to live out his last years in the home he'd shared with his beloved wife, Captain Robinson died less than 2 weeks after their decree, and he still didn't leave. The ghost of Captain William Robinson has been a constant presence at the White River Light since the hour of his death. Today, Karen McDonald serves as director and curator, tending to the lighthouse. A self-described skeptic, she lived in the lighthouse for 2 years before experiencing any of the phenomena described to her by her predecessors. By that time, I had dismissed it, she says. Then I began to hear the footsteps on the stairs, always between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. MacDonald heard the sound of footsteps accompanied by the sound of a cane steadily climbing the stairs. There's really no explanation, not wind or anything, that would create that sound pattern of someone walking with a cane, she explains. So I had a hard time dismissing it. Once the captain had introduced himself to the new keeper, his wife was soon to follow. However, before that could happen, MacDonald had to make a change. Feeling that the devoted wife of the lighthouse's longest keeper ought to be remembered as well, MacDonald tracked down a portrait of Sarah Robinson and hung it on the wall beside one of the captain. Since then, she's noticed unexplained behavior that previous curators never mentioned. Putting 2 and 2 together, she's come to attribute this behavior to none other than the captain's wife. For one thing, MacDonald says, the pictures that hang in the hallway, the pictures of the captain and Sarah, always go askew in different directions. If it were the wind or something like that moving them, it would be a uniform movement, not this way and that. Another time, MacDonald encountered an even more significant clue as to the spirit's identity. She got some help with a household chore. I was testing a glass display case when the phone rang, she explains. I went to answer the phone and left everything as it was. I have a photographic memory, so when I got back, I noticed that the rag had been moved and a whole section of the case, which had been dusty when I left, had been cleaned. I don't know why, but I felt that was definitely Sarah's doing. Wouldn't that be nice? Over the years, McDonald's affection for the couple has grown. I've just always felt that theirs was a great love story, she says. And I'm not the only one who feels that way either. One day, a young professor who visited the lighthouse with a group of students substantiated her opinion about the Robinsons. He was taking a bunch of students up to the peninsula in a boat, McDonald says. The lighthouse was not on their itinerary at all, but when he saw it, he was absolutely riveted. He decided he had to see it. So on the spur of the moment, the group docked its boat at the yacht club, a good mile and a half away, and walked to the lighthouse. After they toured the place, the professor asked me if I'd ever sensed a presence there. I told him that yes, I had. Then he told me that he'd seen an image like a flash in his mind of a couple, obviously very much in love, sitting in one of the recessed windows. Later, he and his fiancée came back and had their picture taken in front of that window. There is little doubt that the devoted lighthouse keeper, Captain William Robinson, and his wife Sarah remain in the lighthouse. But you won't hear Karen McDonald say that they haunt the premises. I don't like to say that place is a haunted, she muses, because the word haunted brings to mind dark and frightening things. I like to say that it is spirited. This is a spirited place. Let me see what they have on here. The museum is open from the beginning of June through the end of September and by appointment during the off season. And then they have the information of how you can get there and who to contact in order to visit it. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to do a little illustration of Captain William Robinson and his wife Sarah. And one of the points of the story was how they had their pictures on the wall and they would be askew. So I'm going to try to do that kind of an illustration. And I want to show you I am a cheater here. Here's a picture I looked up. This is actually Sarah and Captain William Robinson. So I'm going to try, these are the portraits. This is the only one I could find on Sarah. And this doesn't really show him with a cane, but it does show him. So I'm probably going to do him from here on up, just like she has hers from her chest up. But I wanted you to see what I was kind of copying off of the best that I can. So we'll see how well I do. And I'm going to do them in picture form. So the best that I can, again. Let's see here. I will do Captain first. He's a little bit far away for me to do that. Let me get him right there. And then I'll put Sarah over here. And what I'm going to do is kind of sketch a frame and then sketch him inside that frame. So these are, back then they had these frames. I know my grandmother and my grandfather, their pictures back in the day, way back in the day, were actually, and I don't think I have anything to trace around, were actually ovals. So bear with me with these ovals, but I'm going to make them a little bit wonky. There is a bird outside the window that doesn't sound very happy. So one of our cats must be sitting at the window eyeballing it because it's really going off. So that's going to be one picture. And then they kind of said that it was strange that one is one way and the other is the other way. So I'm just going to make them a little, oh my goodness. Free-handed ovals are not easy. So that's what I'm going to do. This one's this way and this one's crooked a little that way. This will be Sarah and this will be William. Okay. Sounds like somebody's working on some woodwork out there too. I hear a saw going. Oh, I don't mean to make you seasick while I'm turning my papers, but it might be a little bit easier for me to do that and try to draw the whole thing at once to even make it look somewhat decent. Well, I would have thought of it ahead of time. I would have drawn these frames already. Found something to use. I know I have a stencil somewhere. But this is how I'm going to do it. That looks good there. And of course, we had rain this weekend, so heading to any other destination place to show you in the Berks County Ghost Stories book was a bust. So yeah, that I have one or two that I'm thinking of doing, but I'm not quite sure which one I want to do first. It depends on how we get there and whatnot. So I'm just going to color these in. The one is Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, and it's horrible, but it's not that far from where we live, and I have never been there. And it's a kind of like a bird refuge. Hawks, of course, red-tailed hawks. And I was born and raised here in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, and it's funny that it's in the book for the Berks County, because that's in the Schuylkill County area, not that far away from us. I mean, we're like right on the border of Schuylkill County and Berks County. But I have never been to Hawk Mountain, but I have seen things online and stuff about, they have different programs to help fund the bird sanctuary. And growing up in Hamburg, our mascot was hawks. So that was a very fitting one. I gotta tell you a funny story. My husband's from Oklahoma, Duncan, Oklahoma, and he says, "Yeah, I lived in the Bible Belt, kind of, and you know what my my school mascot was?" And I said, "What?" And he goes, "The Duncan Devils." Well, I wonder how that even passed, but it did. And so it's like, there you go. What are you gonna do? Look, I got a blender. I don't have to use my finger. I'm gonna have to get myself a sand block so I can sand off the edges that I'm using, because I was using it to do my another picture yesterday, and got it pretty well gunked up with the shading. Now, if I was doing editing and had any idea how to do the editing on this, because what you see is what you get with me, I would sped that up. I mean, you might as well watch your paint dry. Okay, now, Captain, here we go. This is all you, buddy. This is his hat. Alrighty. Now we'll get his face. Boy, this is really making me wonky here. Doing this at the side like this. Okay. This ought to be good, me trying to do a portrait. And it's like so small. I should have enlarged the picture, but of course I didn't. So this guy was an English guy. It's nice that his family carried on the tradition, or wanted to anyway. Like his grandson, following his grandfather's footsteps. Not too much of that anymore. There's so much out there to choose from to make your what do I want to say, occupation. You have so many choices nowadays. I'm gonna make this a little darker so it stands out from when I color it in. And it's showing that his nose is right here. This is not going to be lifelike. I'm sorry. Hers might be a little bit better, but I cannot see what I'm doing with him. Because look at this. Look at how tiny that face is. There, now I could do it. But it's so tiny when I'm just looking at it sitting here. He looks like... No, maybe that isn't. I thought maybe he had a mustache. I can't imagine. I wonder how many bedrooms that house had, the lightkeeper's house. For them to have like 11 children in there. And they were all home raised, meaning that possibly that she did lots of homeschooling. Bless that woman. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? How do you even keep their attention? All 11 of them. And how do you even teach that many different levels? Whew. That's patience. That woman had some patience. Well, that didn't sound good out there. Sounded like somebody just was weed whacking and hit something. That's what we need. We need a weed eater. We never get a chance to freaking mow though because the gosh darn rain is just like taking over the, making everything overgrown. Sometimes our neighbors are nice enough to do our yard too. He has a riding mower, so he just does everyone's. Sorry about that. I just knocked the book down. I always do that with my elbow. I should have known better. Trying to get his coat. This looks like a pea coat, which was a big deal back in the day. I know my mom had one. They probably have like little anchors on these buttons. That was the thing. Now it's only showing that one, so maybe that's the way it's made. It's collar here. Okay, now showing his arm, sleeve. Do his hand. Okay, there's a finger coming up here. This is hand. And the rest of his coat. Okay, now I can't really see because it's all black, but I'm trying to guesstimate the way it's supposed to look. I'm sorry, but he looks like a monkey. I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be. Can't believe his face. I don't know, maybe it's his ears. I'll have to see what I can fix after I'm all done here. And the rest of his coat. Why am I having so much trouble with his ears today? Looks like I'm having trouble with a lot of them today. These pencils, if you just move it a little bit, you're gonna have it have a big smear mark. I think its eyes might be too big too. Good lordy Lou, I'm so sorry. This is taking me forever. I hope I can get Sarah done quick. Sheesh. Jeez Louise. I was making his eyeballs just a little bit too big for the picture, I think. He doesn't look too bad now. That's as good as he's gonna get. Now his jacket's black, but I'm just not gonna color it all in. Now we'll work on Sarah. Put her this way. See which is the best place to have her. Just like that might help me. You guys can see you're in frame. Okay. Of course, her portrait is a little bit more up close and personal. How good are you guys with portraits? Oh, good Lord. Like I said before, animals are my best. I can work better with doing like this, doing off of a picture if I have to do a human. Wish they would have had all the picture of their whole family. That would have been nice. Just amazing. You know how they were so able to raise that many kids back then. Today it's a struggle with one. It's a struggle even if you don't have children. Sometimes. I'm guessing she has her hair pulled back. Ugh. The time is just getting away on me here. I do apologize. I don't like making very long videos. Let's see. She has eyebrow. Oh my goodness. My art teacher's probably rolling over in his grave, seeing how badly I'm doing here. He was my inspiration for doing art. He made art interesting and fun, and I was able to have the opportunity to let him know as I grew up how much he influenced me. Although I'm not doing him justice right now. Just saying. Could have used his little bit of advice on this. See, the eyes are so little, and I just make them so big, this doesn't even look like poor Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. And she has just a little bit of a smile on her face. Just, you know, and that's another thing about pictures way back when. Do you ever notice that how they looked in their pictures? Where did we get to the point where they said, smile for the camera? Because back then there wasn't too much smiling going on. They'd have their pictures taken and that was it. Then again, when I'm thinking about how I said it would be nice if we had a family picture, you imagine getting 11 kids to be still enough to take a picture? Yeah, I think not. Although I bet she could handle them. She's on here a very prominent chin. Her eyes are a lot different from what's on there. Try to get them smaller. I even grab my smaller pointed pencil. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you there. Ooh, I'm losing Sarah. Every time I blow the paper out, it just gets a little bit of an eyeball. Tiny eyeball. Tiny, tiny eyeball. All right. All right, Sarah. That looks a little bit better. Looks a tiny bit better. What are you going to do? Oops, hey now. Get that blendey thing. Shave off some of this here. Oh, and how modest they were in their dress back in the day. Sometimes when I go to Walmart, I wish that we had that modesty back. My goodness. It's just unreal. Not pleasant to see. It's like once it started getting warm, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. This is the point where you don't want to go to Walmart and get anything because you're afraid of what you're going to see. I saw a group yesterday. I just can't. I can't even explain what the heck I saw. There a bunch of girls. Okay, I'm assuming they were girls. Let me start off that way. And yeah, you know what? I shouldn't talk badly about people like that. I'm not a perfect person myself. But obviously these people do not own mirrors. I'm just putting that out there. Okay, so the hair was any color you could imagine, in any style you could imagine, and the clothes look like they were way too small. Anywho, this is Captain William and his wife Sarah. Their portraits hanging a little askew on the wall. Supposedly the ghosts, whoever it may have been, she thought the lady who lived there thought it was Sarah's doing, but who knows? I'd like to have a ghost that cleans. Oh, that'd be awesome. Anywho, here is their portraits. I hope you liked the story. It was another interesting one. I know there was one also in another book, I believe, that I did that one of the spirits or entities or whatever you may call it, refer to them as, actually did some of the house cleaning too. And there you go. Please give me a like, subscribe if you haven't, and comment. I don't know that I'll get to the sketchbook stickers today. I had this, and then I'm going to do a short, and then I have to do some cleaning of my own. And because next month we're going to see my son in Wyoming, so I have some cleaning to get done before we go, so I'm not like feeling guilty of the house being a mess and I just walked out on everything. So, I will see everyone, I hope, hopefully, in the next one. Thanks for stopping by and listening to me ramble and everything else that I do silly on this channel. Can't be too serious all the time. Bye bye for now.